Oh, man. Are we rolling with the Hermeus Podcast again? Are we good?
We're so
Are we good?
back.
We're going? All right.
I think we're a year away. I was talking to Michael.
That
about
what?
It. Yeah.
We are so back, baby.
We've been mole
we're
people.
so back.
Yeah.
Mole people under the ground?
I lost my eyes. I don't even have eyes anymore.
Yeah. I've been watching too much Palmer Luckey stuff. Oh, goodness. Well, welcome back. It has been a while since we've been together, so we got nothing to talk about. I think we're just going to sit here and drink all day.
Wait, you guys drinking?
I mean,
Coffee.
Coffee.
Oops.
Yeah.
coffee. Oh, Zach's having a coffee like I have a coffee on stage at Stanford.
That's right.
That's
Well,
right.
it's nothing but water anyway.
It's
Just
yummy.
hydration.
Yum, yum, yum.
Oh, goodness. Well, last time we were here, we were, I don't know, an engine company, and now we're back as an airplane company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That feels
Long
pretty
time coming.
Pretty damn good. What have we done?
Well, I mean, this is what I said for years now at this point. It's like we're not an airplane company until we have an airplane in the air. And now we had an airplane in the air.
To be fair, we did throw a paper airplane right off this
Wait,
balcony.
I have that video.
Yeah.
At Hermeus, it's all about getting to flight fast.
Okay, well, then, news statement, we're no longer a paper airplane company.
We're no longer a glider company.
It didn't glide. It didn't glide. It fell right out of the...
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Zach's like, what is going on?
I'm glad I didn't know about this when I joined the company. You fuckers couldn't even build a paper airplane.
To be
Well, we
fair,
hadn't
it was
iterated
a
yet.
giant floppy. It was like made out of the printer paper, like the massive plotter printer.
Yeah.
It was not structurally stable.
What are we going to do? Well, no, true metallic jet airplane, flown well, landed beautifully.
Yep.
What a day.
Fuck.
Yeah, I think it was like I mean, Steve and I talked about this, which was like, what would be the best thing for the technical org? Zach, cover your ears. But it was like actually losing it on landing after we had secured the data, but then losing it on landing so people don't get too cocky about what we had done. It's like first flight.
I'm glad that did not happen.
Yeah, agreed. Me too. It's like we all wanted it to work, but it's like there is something also of like I think you said this years ago too, which is like you don't really earn your like engineering wings until you've like nuked something, like blown it up on the stand or like lost it in flight.
Yeah.
That's what really like earns your keep
I
as a
agree with
technical
that.
person.
I'm going to tell you though, from my perspective. So I was watching the live feed, right, which has, some of the data stream, but also the forward camera on the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
We warned you guys about that. We warned everybody about
I
that.
know they want it, and my brain, in the moment, the pucker factor.
Oh, yeah.
When it's happening, so the aircraft is lifting off, and I knew the video was going to cut off at about marker 12-ish, and we're coming in on landing right there at marker 12, and seconds before we touch down, goes black.
You're like, we lost it.
Like, oh my God. And I'm panicking, thinking we just lost the aircraft. Then it comes back on. I'm like, thank good Lord.
Yeah.
It's just, I was like, oh, that's not a great day.
No, just
But
picture
it-
perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Pugs.
Skyler, you were there on top of a cherry picker?
Yeah, I mean,
Or,
that was going to be the
scissor
best
lift.
seat. Yeah, there was a scissor lift out there. And Adam, one of our avionics techs, was like, oh, yeah, we're going up on this thing. I'm like, I'm going up on this thing. It's like, because if you can get higher, you're able to avoid all of the like glimmer from the heat rising off the lake bed. So it's like when the vehicle's far away, close to the ground, you can't see it at all. So I was like, let me get as high as possible. So like I saw the whole thing, which was like, oh yeah, this is the best seat in the house. It was just absolutely incredible. I went back and I put this online, and if someone has better facts that I didn't have, then they can correct me from the internet online. But it's like, I think this was the fastest clean sheet to first flight in the last 79 years. And I think it's fourth overall historically. So this is the MiG-9 being the latest one, which was in the like 46, I think, then P-59 and P-80. And so, obviously like Kelly Johnson, Skunk Works, age. So it's like, man, if the last time we were able to move this fast was the 40s, it's like, that's a huge accomplishment. I didn't even realize it was that much.
Yeah, and I think that's a big accomplishment, even when you consider the things that, we didn't have to do, like landing gear
Right.
in terms of retractableness and the things that we were able to shortcut. Even with those mulligans, it's still a great accomplishment.
Totally. Yeah.
Zach, what'd you think out there?
Yeah,
I know going into this, you had already made up in your mind it was going to be successful.
I was like, it's happening.
Yeah.
Give me the fucking ball. We're gonna score. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, despite what people think when they meet me that I am the chief designer and lead engineer of all of this.
Yeah, you really exude those
I
vibes.
exude the vibe of like, this guy does math, big time math. It was fun. It was fun to watch. I mean, there's not a lot of opportunities for anybody to see real heavy hardware innovation happening live. So yeah, honestly, like I almost connected to it separate and apart from being at Hermeus, because I genuinely did believe from the Hermeus perspective, I'm like, this is gonna fucking work. Like I honestly had no concerns, no nerves. People were like this. I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's gonna fucking work. But seeing it like as just a fan of America, as a fan of innovation, as a fan of cool shit, for me was like really the fun part. And when it landed, I definitely was like, who has a cigarette? We need to celebrate. And I think more than anything, I was really happy for the team. There's been so many people who worked so hard. And for me, as not an engineer, as not anybody who's actually physically adding to this, I just really was happy for them. I was proud of them, and was grateful to be able to celebrate with them.
Yeah, I think this one, the first thing in my career, company that we've like flown a thing. Like obviously we, back when we were at Generation Orbit, we did some flight testing with NASA with something we built underneath their Gulfstream and whatnot. That was cool. My heart was beating pretty hard during that one, especially when that speed tape came off.
What is that thing flopping?
What's flopping back there? Back there? Don't pay attention to that.
It's a feature now.
Not
a bug.
Yes. And I remember when we did the first like integrated stage hot fire test down in Jacksonville. I don't know what time it was, like 3:30 in the morning.
That one had my heart going.
Yeah. This one was different. This one like I don't know if I felt like a little bit further away from it. Like almost like you, Zach. Like I don't have as much of a hand in what's actually happening today as maybe I did in those previous experiences. It's like my homework here was turned in at this point, like kind of years ago, as we've built and put together this team, helped figure out what we're doing, all of that. So it was definitely a very different experience than other firsts in my career, just like emotionally. But I didn't cry at any of the other ones.
I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah, we cried.
Yeah, there was some tears there. Yeah, no, it was real. Most happy to get that hat off my head though.
Oh God,
thank
yeah.
Jesus.
so fucking good.
Did that thing smell by the time you got it done?
No.
I mean, just wearing that constantly for
I mean,
6 months.
I didn't sleep in it.
It looked like you did.
Yeah, I know. I got my limp brush out. I rolled it.
Yeah.
For the camera. So no, it was good.
You gonna
yeah.
put a glass case around it?
I don't know what I'm
You
gonna do with
burn
it.
it in
Yeah,
effigy?
I wanted to burn it. I wanted to like land the plane and then like stick it in the afterburner and turn it back on and just incinerate it. But my kids would not let me do it. They're like, Daddy, you're bringing the hat back, right? I'm like, no. Dad, no. You can't fire the hat. You can't fire the hat.
Fire the hat is a funny.
Fire the hat is a funny way to like. Well, I'm firing the hat from being on my head ever again.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
So the question is the next aircraft, what hat are you going to adorn until we fly?
I don't know what it is that I'm going to do for the next one. I mean, it's coming up pretty quickly here. Not too
Yeah.
many months before Mark II rolls out of the factory and gets into test. So people have made various suggestions. Hats are definitely on there. Growing out the hair, beard. Like Tim wants me to get some tattoos. I'm not sure. Zach now wants me to get some tattoos.
I'll
also.
do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll figure out something to do for sure. Yeah.
I'll definitely there's some milestones I'm not going to say on the pod that I will get some Hermeus tattoos for sure. For sure.
Oh yeah. Something that was really cool and a kind of testament to how we do business that I think is maybe not that interesting unless you know the details was that as we were going through high-speed taxi, so we had a lull where we were in the hangar, we were waiting on, working through the paperwork with the FAA that was kind of the miss for a few months. And then once we got back out there, about a week till we were actually ripping into high-speed taxi. But we hadn't cleared the high-speed taxi test points. But what's crazy is we cleared the fastest we had ever taxied 2 runs and into flight all in the same operation. Like that's unheard of.
Literally minutes.
Minutes apart. And it's like because we had the ability to have the right people looking at the right data and prepared. And it's like, if everything goes well, you're able to just go succeed, right? And it's like, it's not, oh, now let's figure out what we're going to do next. It's like, we knew exactly what we're going to do. Everything's good. Again, fly. It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
To go
That's
into
a
your,
huge point.
like, that is absolutely insane. And I was like super proud of the team to be like prepared and ready and on call and ready to be like, okay, it's not, how do we make sure? No, it's no fear. And it's also like extreme preparedness, and it's just execute. It's like, that's what fucking time it is.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what normally happens, especially like in and around working with the government, and where it's like, okay, go do the thing, and then let's stop,
right,
and like make sure that we did the thing, and that and then like now let's like move into the next stage. I mean, you know this from the government acquisition world. It's not like somebody would set up a bunch of running doors and just keep running. Everybody would stop, wait, like, is the door unlocked? Like, well, I don't really care if I like run into the door. I'm going to run in, I'll break my nose, and then I'll just get back up and do it again. But like, you have to be willing to put yourself through that amount of pain when things don't go right. But I mean, this is the same thing with green light schedules, right? Like, you're not going to play schedule chicken planning on somebody else to fail in their delivery. You're going to set yourself up to be ready when they're ready. And that's how you ensure that you get something done as quickly as possible.
Well, there's no doubt that I enjoy when things go wrong more than when they go right. Just love failure.
You learn more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
more.
no, and every aircraft's going to have cobwebs to knock off when you sit in a hangar for that long. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we talk about the one cobweb that we had to knock off in Max AB?
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
let's
I think it's
talk
fine.
about-
Yeah,
it
'cause,
was-
we did it right.
Yeah,
So yeah,
right,
totally.
exactly. So we go into Max AB, and the actuator that's on the throttle, basically there's this unknown failure mechanism that they have of when it hard stops. You have to kind of trick it to go back and forth. So we were actually in Max AB for I think it was like 5 minutes or so, and we're thinking we can't shut this thing down.
Mm-hmm.
How do we deal with this? And talk about the team and how excellent they are. They were able to go into debug modes, push that up to the pilots. The pilots were able to give raw voltage commands to the actuator.
Wow.
Turn that off, and then come back safely, and then not only that, walk the regulators through the process of what went wrong and convince them that, hey, look, we can fly next week.
Right. Yeah, there's a couple pieces to add to that, which is like, one, the setup that we had to do that engine run, getting back into test after it sitting around for a long time, it was like double latched down, like we had chalked it up, we had strapped it down, like there was no risk to people. And that's the whole value proposition of being, an uncrewed aircraft, is that you can take a different risk profile because there's no people on board. And so it's like everyone's away from it. So the only risk we were really sitting on was just like a hardware risk. It's like you shouldn't run the engine in Max AB for 10 minutes or whatever, at the power level that you're sitting at. And so like it was ended up being fine. And that's like the story. The other piece is like, it was a firmware issue in the off-the-shelf component that we had, that it wasn't something like, oh, we messed it up. It was just like we hadn't hit this condition where this thing do this thing in this order, and then it was like an unknown. It's like you're not going to PowerPoint your way into finding that problem. You got to go find it, and then you solve it, and then you avoid it. And that's what we did, because we couldn't update the firmware, so we just avoided that problem, get back into test, and then tell that story. And it was like in like 3 days we were testing again. And it's like that's also crazy.
But the beautiful thing about that is that you actually hit that bound, you fix it, and now the whole system's a lot more safe.
Right, because you learned.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we all the pins go high.
Oh, man.
On USB ports.
Yeah.
Oh, when you turn them on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so Anthony, now doing his own thing, he's been on the podcast, so folks may actually know him, but he's doing his own thing now and working with other companies building avionics. And he was at Y Combinator, and this company that was like making some electronics thing was using like an off-the-shelf microcontroller. And he was like, hey, all your valves are going to open when this thing turns on because of a known issue that we had like seen before in our past. And it was just like, oh my God. And like this team was just like, thank you so much, because we would have like blown up our whole test article or whatever it was. I was like, oh shit. Lessons learned, baby.
Oh yeah. Speaking of lessons learned, it's been quite a program in Quarterhorse so far. We've been through now 2 vehicle iterations: design, build, test, all of the pain that comes with that, and now we're deep in the middle of the second airplane and third vehicle. I want to take a little bit of a step back and like look at like what have we learned? what roadblocks have we run into along the way? I mean, we've been kind of quiet for a little bit. Obviously, like we had a good check of testing on Mark 1 in December, and then we've been kind of quiet for a bit. So I want to talk a little bit about what was going on there and why. But like definitely a lot learned that I think we should hit. So I don't know. I'll start with you, Zach. As a little bit of an outsider on the engineering side, what have you seen? How have you seen the company grow? Through these first 2 vehicle builds, over the past 2 years, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's been monumental growth. I think, I want to focus on an area here that's a little bit less technical because we got the technical folks who are closer to it. And, in my role being customer focused and customer centric and being out in the market, one of the things that always drove me nuts would be when I would encounter folks who would effectively say, previous to us flying, that we hadn't done anything. And my frustration with that was that, like, I sometimes it was said full on as a derogatory statement. Sometimes it was said as a, like, hey, I'm trying to help you, like, you got to do more. But either way, the underlying piece to that drove me and continues to drive me nuts, and this is to any startup company in any industry that's maybe hearing this, is like, that is such an unfair comment, because it is spoken from a place in a position where you take for granted all the infrastructure and tools that you have to do your primary task. And so, yes, obviously our goal is to fly fast as fast as we can. But the amount of work that goes into establishing a business, establishing a team, establishing feedback loops, funding, all the management to make this a coherent machine to deliver that outcome. Most people show up to work and they take for granted that their monitors are there and that they have an IT huge line and all this stuff. And so, like, when I would take shots from people like, you haven't done anything, it's like, you don't even remotely understand what it takes to even get yourself in a position in the starting blocks to run a race. And that's not to diminish the engineering difficulty here, but like the difficulty of establishing a business, especially a business that's so technical, that doesn't have clean, quick wins to maintain morale, to return excitement to investors, to catch headlines. Like, it is just such an underappreciated part of the narrative. And I think, look, I wasn't a SpaceX guy. And certainly when SpaceX was starting, I was in high school and wasn't an aerospace kid. And so, like, I didn't notice that. But, now everybody looks at SpaceX and they like to tell these stories. SpaceX people are not looking backwards at, like, all the things they overcame, and they want to give the credit now. I think it's important to acknowledge all the teams, including engineering, that go into creating a business that can put itself in a position to do that. And so, I'll let you guys talk about the growth in the engineering team, and certainly I observed it from afar when I would walk around the factory. But I think the growth in the broader team the enabling team is a really big part of this story as well, and something that generally doesn't get the headlines for pretty good reason. It's not necessarily the sexiest part of the business, but also something that just I personally am frustrated with when people say you haven't done anything. It's like, goddamn, like, getting the flywheel spinning is the hardest part.
Getting this building built to where we can actually manufacture in here.
Exactly. Yeah. Like all the little fucking things that people take for granted on the outcome. Like, wow, the plane. Yeah, wow, the plane. But the years of work. I mean, this company is 6 years old. Like, it's not like for 6 years Hermeus was working on the aircraft.
Most of the time actually wasn't that.
It wasn't, right? And so now you see, like, the way the curve works on the growth of the business, like all that unfun, gory work that happens before you start getting into the curve and you're like, oh, now we're doing cool shit. I'm just, like, really grateful to the team. I'm excited. I'm proud. And yeah, we're now in a position to fly more planes and to tell our story with more emphasis and to truly walk away from you haven't done anything. Now I can turn around and be like, well, what have you done? Which, oh, you bet your ass I'm going to do that.
I can't wait for the goalposts to move, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they'll move. They'll move. But then you'll know how I'll react. So,
like, the first group to move the goalpost, though, is us. And we've flown a plane. We have a lot more to do. Now we have to go finish building and get ready and go fly a supersonic plane.
And I think this also goes to, like, why we were quiet for a year. It's like, you know what? I don't want to sit on a podcast right now and, like, cry about how hard this is or, like, almost be distracted. It's like, you know what? I just want to work right now. Like, now is the time to put our head down and work. Like, we are here primarily to do one thing, and that is to build and fly these planes. And when we have time, like it's great to do this podcast. I want to communicate with people and tell them our story, but not at the expense of doing the dirty work. And so, to people who are listening, we weren't hiding. It wasn't any of those things, but like it was tough goings, and we were just like, we're going to do the thing that matters, which is the dirty work, and get into it.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of crowing about your successes that you've earned versus crowing about the successes in the future.
Exactly. So just like put the mics down, let's get to work, and now we've got a chance to come back and talk.
And talk about the kind of nuance and specifics. I mean, to your point, one thing that I think maybe goes underappreciated, maybe I just underappreciated it, which is just like the intelligence built into an org structure by living through time.
Yeah.
Right? It's like even just like you kind of mentioned this, but like how communication flows and like who makes different calls. And it's like, especially in the early days when the team is really small, there's no baked in intelligence of like being beaten up by time of like how the org interacts with itself. And especially as it changes, as you add another 10, 25, 50, 100, 150 people, all of those things break. And it's like, oh, well, that person with that title makes the call. Clearly, they're very good in this thing. It's like, well, you don't know their history. You don't know where they were before this. Are they the right person to make this call for this moment in this company? It's like, holy
super
shit.
hard to pattern match because what we're doing is new. So we're first finding like the way to task organize based off of pattern matching from SpaceX, from an Anduril, from a this, from a that. There is not a company like Hermeus. This company has not existed in a generation, right? And so you have to basically learn by stove touching more than you would like to.
Yeah, I've been touching.
You've been touching stoves.
Yeah. So let's dig into the kind of technical stuff a little bit here. So just to kind of remind everybody what the Quarterhorse program has looked like in the past so far. So we started with Mark 0. The goal there was really taxi a like full-scale aircraft around an Air Force base.
A jet-powered go-kart.
A jet-powered go-kart, yes.
Actually, I will say that it actually started before that with Penguin.
Oh, Penguin, yeah.
Yeah, Penguin didn't move.
Mark -1.
I know.
Oh, boy.
-1.
Yeah, -1. It's
Mark-
engine airframe integration.
We'll call it Mark I. Anyway. But yeah, as far as moving airplanes go, so that program started in, I think officially like late March,
23.
early April of 2023.
Yep.
So a little over 2 years ago, was like literally when we decided this is the next thing that we're doing. So that program took 7 months, 8 months,
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, I think we wrapped up that test campaign in November of 23. Tested up to about 50 miles an hour up at the Arnold Engineering Development Center in Tennessee. Got through all the safety approvals and everything like that for a vehicle about the same size as what we expected to fly for Mark 1. In parallel with that, we started the Mark 1 program in, I think, like late September of 23.
About that.
Yeah. So with the goal of flying that aircraft like roughly 1 year after we'd completed Mark 0. So, we came into 2024 with the goal of flying Mark 1 for the first time by the end of the year. And damn, did we ever get close. It doesn't feel like we got close because of like time, but this is one of the things I want to talk about today is like where did we end up at the end of 2024? And how did that take us through the rest of the Mark 1 program? But I don't know, anything you guys want to hit on learnings or things we picked up along the way to kind of starting to get the vehicle ready for flight?
I think even higher level, it's what is the Quarterhorse program is like super important. So it is like semi-parallel development, which is like, oh, great, word salad. Okay, cool. But what it means is that when you have multiple vehicles that you're building that you're starting before the other one is done, you get a lot of the value of rolling the lessons learned in because it's not at the exact same time. It's a little bit delayed, but you're also able to pivot when something goes wrong. And so I think a big success here that we had is that when we hit the issue with the administrative part for getting flight approvals, being able to pause on Mark 1, put it in a hangar for 4 months and not lose 4 months of company runway, not lose 4 months of roadmap. It's when everyone's swarming back to Mark 2 to keep that on track and keep it moving. And like that semi-parallel development is the thing. It's like that's it, right? And it's like you're getting the benefits of lessons learned because you're not trying to build, 3 perfect airplanes all at once, but you're also not putting yourself at risk of day-for-day slip-on issues. And it's like we utilize that to our advantage in an extreme way, where I don't see really any other places. SpaceX is probably the only one that is doing something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like overall, the whole Mark 1 program took 20 months from when it started in September to when we flew here in May, like roughly something like that. I think we're all like pretty grumpy about how long that took. But I also kind of like want to talk about like, okay, what were we actually grumpy about? What do we learn? What are we kind of mad that we really think we should have done better as we executed through that? So there's stuff on the technical side, stuff on the regulatory side. I think that I want to hit, but let's start on the technical front. New airplane, think like 15 new subsystems, all coming together for the first time. Obviously, we had some subsystems kind of in their infancy in Mark 0, but I mean, there's a big difference between McMaster go-kart to something that you can actually get somebody to allow you to fly. That's like a 10,000-pound airplane. So basically like 15 new subsystems. Of those 15, I think only one of them missed its like delivery schedule. All the rest were completed, tested, validated, meeting their performance requirements like on time in the middle of last year. RF was tough. I think we probably lost like 3 or 4 months. Debugging that one system, and this is kind of sometimes what happens in development programs. Like you can only go as fast as your single weakest link or your single slowest subsystem. So getting that fixed and done and out of the way, I think was great.
Yeah, I mean, as I kind of think about like where were the biggest chunks of time in that program, it was like obviously the 4-month was like a quarter of the entire program, or like a fifth maybe. So that's just a big chunk of time for one thing, which is like, okay, we could have been a lot better about understanding the regs on a very deep level. So specifically, it was who has jurisdiction over a program that is a customer of the Air Force flying on our Air Force range that we assumed incorrectly, and many people assumed incorrectly, that made it able to be administered or like had jurisdiction by the Air Force. Ended up not being the case. If you go back to the U.S. code, you can read the kind of tree, and that's what we should have done and had like very strong conviction. Is like part of it is like when you're working with regulators is you have to be the best, you have to be the expert in the room. I think that was a huge lesson learned. So that's a huge chunk of time right there. Boom, like 4 months, maybe 5 months of huge lesson learned of just like more expertise than the regulators regulating you, so that you can be convicted about doing the right thing. Then the other piece of like, spending about 3-ish months working through integration issues. So it wasn't like only the RF problem. I think there was like stacks of how we troubleshoot this system was actually like the holistic one, right? It was like, okay, the RF was a thing that we had an architecture that made it very difficult to troubleshoot and a cadence of tests that did not enable us to resolve those and like find those issues and like quickly turn them. And so it's like this overall cohesive thing that led to that 3 months. It wasn't like that team or person did bad. It was like this like web of interconnectedness.
I think I agree. Like there's not one person at all on this, but I do think there is something about the team culture, the team approach, and some of the tension we found within the team on how to do things, which is very unsurprising in a new endeavor with a mixture of backgrounds and like trying to come to like a philosophical alignment on this is how you do this new thing. And, if you're trying to do something new, it's a harder argument because it's new. You can't point to like, oh, this is how it's done. It's an easier argument if you're doing something that's been done to say this is how it's done. And so we saw that tension. I also thought, again, not being in the nitty gritty of the technical execution on these problems, but the tension in process completely decelerated us because the team just was not on the same page. There was not as much alignment as we wanted. And there's also something to be said of like, it's not necessarily being right or wrong. It's about being convicted on the direction, because if you're convicted that we're all going to run as fast as we can in the wrong direction, then you're going to find out sooner that you're wrong as a group, and you'll pivot. Versus if you have this tension that that drags you, that's an anchor, you're going to decelerate the business and decelerate your learning. And so I think another piece of this, like, oh, you guys haven't done anything, is like, no. If you're going to do something new, building the team, and you talk a lot about this, of like those reps, right? I don't remember the word you guys use.
Contextualize reps.
Contextualized reps.
Creating a crucible for people
crucibles,
to,
right? Creating
right.
these crucibles is so important, so that when, we're in Mark 2 now, the team has been through some things together. We add new people. They are now adopting the culture in which they arrive at. They are not.
There's some inertia to it.
Right. They're not playing tug of war with the culture. And this is, again, not to say necessarily that your way is right or your way is right, although that does happen. It's more like we're going to commit to a path so that we can determine what's right as fast as possible, so we can get.
That's right.
If we're wrong, we can get on the right question. And that would have also, on some of these issues, I think, accelerated the timelines.
Yeah, alignment. Like, you can, even if running in the wrong direction, like you said, the alignment thing allows you to sprint in a way that then allows you to get back on track so much faster. But if you're pulling on the rock in two different directions, you're just not doing anything.
Yeah, you're stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Moneyball.
I mean, it's Moneyball.
This is exactly Moneyball.
Jeff Bezos also espoused that in terms of a lot of decisions don't actually kill companies. It's when you just headstrongly go in a direction, you make a choice.
Most decisions are reversible.
Yeah. Exactly.
So just go. Yeah, I think we got a little stuck at times.
Yep, totally.
So I also think that one of the things, a big bucket of time, and I know you had some great thoughts on this in terms of how supply chain actually dictates. And I know we're going to get some flack online about the aircraft and having non-resets.
The rivets.
Exactly.
I think the rivets are sick.
Those are speed rivets.
Those are definitely. It's like a golf ball.
Hey,
Yeah,
idiots! You fucking idiots! Those are speed rivets.
It's like a golf ball. It just makes the drag a little bit. No. It's getting the recessed rivets takes a lot longer than
It's
it
double
did.
the drill operations.
Yeah, exactly. So we were able to move a lot faster and develop the aircraft a lot faster without having to do that. Now, when high speed operation becomes a thing like Mark II, we're going to spend the time and go do that.
Obviously.
Right. So
let's see. Klaus went back and looked, and the Spitfire, so World War II Spitfire, World War I? I don't know.
World War II,
I don't know history.
Yeah.
I'm here to fly planes now, not think about the past. But you went back and looked, and like there was a bunch of protruding rivets on that, and then where they didn't protrude the rivets was on the wing. So it was like, all right, well, go look at ours. Like, where are they not protruding? Where did we take the time to double drill them and recess them? On the wings.
Nailed it.
Oh, lift. Amazing. When you're trying to do something fast, like you're trying to build an aircraft fast, so much of how you build it or how you design it is based on how you're going to build it. And our goal here is to build things very simply so that we can put them together quickly, and that you alleviate a bunch of these kind of supply chain challenges. And it allows you to leverage the flexibility that you have. Like you can't change people out. Like you can't just like go create companies to do what you want to do for a certain part or something. So like you kind of have to take the supply chain more as a constraint instead of the other way around, and leverage the flexibility you do have, which is like design. Like we literally can design anything.
We can do anything we want.
Exactly. So like, great, use that. Don't like design something and then try to go solve all the problems you created with that design in the supply chain. Like, it's the worst.
Right. I mean, people love talking about design for manufacture, design for test, which I agree with. Do those things. Design for supply chain is, I don't think, why aren't people saying that? Say that more. And it's like when you have that knob and it's like, oh, this thing exists on the shelf, do it. Take it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was like, I feel like we're not innovating here. It's like, it's very obvious. It's like, if thing, use.
Well, I think this comes from.
What are we doing here?
I think it comes from like a generally more linear design process.
Yeah.
When it's like, okay, I'm gonna design the thing, and then I'm gonna analyze the thing, and then I'm gonna go build the thing that I designed.
Yeah.
Instead of like,
do it all at the same time.
Am I even like asking the right question with my design? Like that, like you literally have the most flexibility in design. So like, why not use that more? I mean, think about how we designed the wings.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially, maybe it was good for you to talk about on Mark 1.
The biggest one was like the tail.
Yeah, that's true.
The tail, which was like, okay, we started where it was like, what are the things, I can't take any, I say we, but it was like the team that was working on it. But it was like, what are the things that we need to do the most precisely, and what are the things that we can be super dumb on. We can be super dumb on the front because if we make it overweight, we over-design it, then we're going to have a more stable vehicle. Okay, let's spend some of our mass budget early on just making it super simple, super heavy up front, and then as we get back where the things really matter, how we design it, so the size of the wing is going to dictate our stability in terms of where you put your center of pressure. So the team then was like, okay, let's wait on that. Let's do that at the end. And wherever the CG ends up, as systems get more mature, they're fitting in, they're getting packaged, things are changing, but it's getting more mature. The center of gravity is starting to stabilize, get predictable. Now unlock the design of the tail. Then you can design the exact tail that you want. It's like, oh, fuck, that's sick. And that's like one of my favorite stories from that, and it'll stick with me. And it's like, will that always make sense for any program? No, but for this specific program, it's like it's so right. It's those little things.
Yeah. All right, let's nerd out on the regulatory stuff that you touched on. Oh, I know. I'll cry. Yeah, I mean, you and me have been knee deep in this for we know. Brutal. We know way more about how the FAA works now than really, really should. But so the vehicle itself, Mark 1, was ready to fly in December. We completed all of our low-speed taxi test points. We spent about 21 days at Edwards from when we arrived to when we hit our 130 knot mark, which was as fast as we could go without.
Also, the low-speed campaign. I just want to say this for the people online. The low-speed campaign. 130 knots. It's like 150 miles an hour. Low speed campaign is pretty sick.
Yeah, I guess it's medium. Anyway, so we on December 7th or something, we had basically 2 test points remaining, which is high speed taxi and flight. Mm-hmm. When we got back into test, so we got our all of our regulatory stuff squared away. The lake bed dried, got repaired. From the day the lake bed was ready for us to when we completed flight was 6 days. So in total, you take out that weather and regulatory delay, that whole time at Edwards, expanding our envelope was 27 days.
27 days, and of the 6, there was also the getting back in the saddle, which is basically warming up the pilots and the vehicle effectively for. Exactly. Actually expanding the envelope again. So we went backwards a little bit. We did some regression testing to get back to where we were. So if we had done that all together, there's another 4 days off of it.
I mean, we basically spent an hour of new test points.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So what held us back from doing this in December? It was FAA approval for flight. So we're flying under the FAA flag, and. As Skyler mentioned, there's a lot of ambiguity about who actually has jurisdiction over allowing us to fly, because we're conducting this flight on an Air Force base that has it's fully controlled access-wise. The entire operation is occurring within restricted airspace. It's on a U.S. federal range. The range is approving all the operations. Who actually has to tell you you have to fly? So I think we got pretty convinced, and I think the Air Force got pretty convinced. We're good. We don't need the FAA for this. And, well, that was wrong.
Completely. Yep. And if you go back to the U.S. code, it actually is a very clear thing. It's but who's reading the U.S. code? It's these regulators, they know.
14 CFR 91.7.
And for the record, I say the regulators don't always know. It's a lot of them did. So some people did, but there's always just so much noise in a lot of these things. And people like to say that things are regulations when in reality they're just best practices and not actually requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we ended up in basically late November. I think it was the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that seems right.
When it was all right, we have a very serious problem here.
Oh, we're starting at 0 with the FAA.
We are starting at 0 for flight approvals.
My turkey did not taste great.
Yeah, it was
the plane or the
yeah, it was very plain.
No,
Yeah. Anyway, so basically starting from 0. So we had to figure out, okay, what is the fastest path to us getting this aircraft approved? It was very clear and obvious to everybody involved. The safety of this operation is already very well contained and understood.
Right. That helped a ton.
Yeah, it was very clear. There's no question can this be done safely? Yes. It's all right, what is the legal framework through which we have to push this? So typically the way you would do this for an aircraft is to go get a special airworthiness certificate in the experimental category, so an experimental ticket, and timelines on that can be, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months on the low end, like 6+ months on the high end. I think the biggest thing though is that the FAA is looking at the aircraft to ensure that basically the aircraft is airworthy. They're confident that the aircraft isn't going to fail. Mm-hmm. And the reason that the airplane part of the FAA is like that is because it was born out of airplanes flying with people on them. So the purpose, you had to make sure, because if somebody's going to be on the airplane, you want to make sure the airplane is safe. Now, where our company comes from and our ethos is very much from the rocket world, where we're building an aircraft that doesn't have a person on it. It's hardware. We are willing to take risk with hardware.
There's no safety impact of losing the airplane. Safety
and does the mission work are two completely independent things. The rocket world is completely set up for this. I mean, rockets, they're the way rockets have almost always flown, they crash every mission. Every flight they crash. So they crash safely. Mm-hmm. So when you're approving a rocket to fly, you're not actually certifying the design of the rocket. Everything is the rocket is going to work. No, we actually don't care if the rocket works at all.
You assume it doesn't work.
You assume it doesn't work, and you're like, okay, can this not work safely? And that's the approach that we took with Mark 1, because that's really the fastest path. Because it's great if you can build an airplane in a year, but if it takes you 12 months, 24 months to convince somebody to let you to fly it, almost kind of what's the point? Mm-hmm. So we knew initially we didn't want to go this path. So experimental ticket was a really tough thing to come to that point in the program in November. The airplane is ready to fly, and you're telling me I now have to rip off, basically take the airplane apart and show somebody that we put the wires together correctly. I'm like, whoa,
that's not going to work.
That's not going to happen. Yeah. Not going to happen. So we had to figure out a better path. I think we looked at just about every possible way you can legally fly an airplane through. I think we looked at the Air Force, we looked at Navy, we looked at NASA, we looked at other countries, we looked at every different part of the FAA, and what we centered on was a path that other uncrewed aircraft have taken before. Which is an exemption from airworthiness. So the FAA has been given by Congress the authority to waive the requirement for airworthiness for uncrewed aircraft that that can operate in a low risk fashion to the public and the national airspace. That said, even that process, 44807 for anybody keeping track at home, is fraught. If you go look it up in the Federal Register, how long it takes from somebody applying for a 44807 exemption to when it gets granted, they can be 2 years. So even that, we saw that, we're like, oh, fuck, that doesn't work. So it was really incumbent on us not only to figure out how to do this quickly, but work through the bureaucracy of the FAA at an incredibly unique time in history, right?
God.
So this is now, remember, this is November through, when do we get the approval? In April of this year. So what happened in that time?
I forgot about those.
So we had an election. We had a lame duck period between administrations. We had an inauguration in January.
We had multiple aircraft.
We had
aviation failures.
Unprecedented number of aviation accidents in the United States. One of which was in our nation's capital, involving military aircraft, and our whole kind of pitch to the FAA was we're doing this on an Air Force range. Trust the DoD. So that was not a good feelings thing. But no leadership installed at the FAA, which means you're trying to do something new and different. There's nobody at the top to say this is okay.
To anoint it.
The escalation path was effectively until Sean Duffy was confirmed. The escalation path was to the President of the United States for what we were trying to do. So it was a pretty daunting risk and challenge. I think a lot of people looked at where we were in December and were like, I don't know if there's a path out of this. Are they going to be able to do this?
Yep.
So I mean, that's me kind of grabbed that by the horns in November and figure it out.
Well, I think it's easy for people to fire shots at regulators because it's their job is sort of to be an impediment in some ways, right? And so for the record, I actually think that like there is a role for the FAA. It's not like delete the FAA. It's not like get rid of regulation. It's a super important thing that needs to exist. And when we actually went in and talked with the people, it's like they were all very supportive of like, oh, this is low risk and we all know. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's like they just said it out loud. And I was like, oh, this is actually what gave me some amount of confidence to keep just banging our head against this, because it was like they actually saw that our story made sense and they understood it. And it was like, okay, we're going to work together on this. I was like, because if we didn't have that, we were done. We were done. And so then it was more about like helping them craft the paperwork story and then giving them the top cover. So I think that's also the lesson learned is just like the escalation path is critical, because then it allows people to give the people who are actually shepherding the paper across the top cover to do the thing, to like not take a career risk on doing what they have the ability to do. There are paperwork mechanisms. There are bureaucratic mechanisms to say yes to all different kinds of things. This is in the aviation regulation side. This is in the classified world. There are like things that are designed to help the country do the things that it needs to do, but there needs to be a stakeholder on the other side who has the career top cover to actually be able to go do it. And so we were able to like finagle our way through that, but it was just like, so I have to give the FAA a ton of credit, because they saw it and they were like, yes. And it's like, I mean, from the outside, you would say, oh, people always ask me, it's like, oh, and you hate the regulators, don't you? It's like, I mean, nah, like it was a painful bureaucratic thing. And we had to like, hey, remember, hey, where's the paper now? Is it on their desk? Oh, give it to them. Give it to them.
Yeah,
and you
they're never going to operate with your urgency.
Right.
Like you have to impart your urgency onto their process, and that's in any bureaucracy when you're working outside in any industry. Right. That's always going to be it.
And so, so it was just like we just had to hound them, and then we got it done.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the end of the day, what the FAA decided to do was to leverage a new authority that Congress had given them to move even faster than they have previously for approvals for drones like this. So this is the first time that the FAA has used, again, Section 927 of the 2024 FAA Reauthorization Act.
They're going to be so mad because now everyone's going to be like applying down this.
Yeah.
And it's going to slow it down.
It's just going to bottleneck right there at the 927.
It's actually 928. It's 928.
Yeah. That was great. And I think that actually, I think it made a lot of people, even like within the FAA, within Congress, and within the administration, like actually quite happy to see kind of all of this come together and move from, I think, their perspective would be like a pretty fast pace. So, I mean, I think we got the approval in 100 days from submitting, which, like, of course, like we're going to be super grumpy about because, like, I think it should take 3 hours. But yeah,
and big shout out, I think, to some of our supporters on the Hill too. I mean,
totally.
Like in the absence of having leadership at the FAA and the absence of Sean Duffy being in his seat, bipartisan support for us from congressional leadership to make sure that the FAA maintain urgency, focus, and I think that also speaks to the fact that there's a lot of interest in the change. It wasn't really about Hermeus per se. It's about like seeing some of these vestigial structures start to reform in some way. To your point, the FAA and these other agencies serve a critical role, but they cannot be an impediment to innovation. That's what we don't want. And so, shout out to those members who helped us as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was huge. All right. So we've talked a lot about the past. What's up next? We've Glenn, you mentioned goalpost moving. I'm sure that's happening within within our customer stack and other places, and the internet too. Like, okay, great, you guys flew, but you didn't do this. But well, we got some more butts to get out of the way here. 1T.
We got some 2T butts to get out of the way too.
Anyway, the first butt to get off the track here is flying supersonic. So let's talk about that. What's coming up for Mark II?
It's right there.
It is right there.
See it.
Yeah,
no,
can you see
you
it?
You can't see it.
I can see it.
I can see it. Yeah, I know it's there. So yeah, what are we excited about for Mark II? What's coming up next?
I mean, ripping supersonic's pretty sweet.
Upgrading engines.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
F-100 is gonna be great.
Yeah, big airplane, big engine, lots of payload. First product, sort of utility for a platform. Mark 1 was a proof point. It was not ever intended to be, of a use to anybody other than us. But Mark 2, Mark 2.1 in particular, and then the rest of that series has direct applicability to multiple problem sets for the customer. So, if Mark 1 made us an airplane company, Mark 2 makes us like a product company.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
And I, as the sales guy, I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah, this is for people who maybe are now hearing about us for the first time, having flown, and the press associated with that. It's now starting to marry the technical roadmap, that iterative, semi-parallel development that I was talking about earlier, with the ability to fork new products, right? And I think this is like, I see it kind of like a wishbone in my head, which is like the Quarterhorse series is the like spine of the fish, and then, or not a wishbone, a fishbone. And so the spine of the fish is the Quarterhorse series, and then you're forking products along the way, and then you're honing each vertebrae to whatever the like nearest term, most valuable product opportunity that you can. And so like we spend enormous time, with you, Badger, Steve, shaping exactly like how do we make Mark II appetizing, but also very technically achievable for the team to be able to deliver. And like that's super exciting that we've found this like region of what this vehicle can be that really unlocks a lot of those things. And it's like that marriage of the business case, the product case with the technical roadmap is like,
that's it.
That's the only way to do this. It's like, it's not like, oh, we're so good. It's like, how the fuck else are you going to do it? You can't. And I just don't see how anyone can do what we're doing without that.
Yeah, and I think one of the more interesting things is the fact that because of that semi-parallel development, right, we can actually identify those things in that the DoD wants and needs, and we can actually execute those because we're executing on an aircraft per year plus or so. We can actually.
I think we still target the year. It's like
still a year.
Yeah,
Still a year.
Still a year.
It's yes.
Yeah.
But we can actually execute on those near-term things. We don't have to plan 7, 8, 9, 10 years out.
Yeah.
Like
Right. And then be wrong, and then be at the end of that 10-year program and be like,
wrong
oh,
fast.
fuck.
Yeah, be wrong. This goes back to what we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Be wrong fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Be wrong
Yeah,
fast.
it's not fail fast. I think people say that, and it sounds like you're seeking failure. It's like, no. Rush so hard to deliver something so that you identify your wrongness as soon as possible.
That's right.
Because
So
you're going to be wrong, you just don't know where.
Because it'll get you to write faster.
That's it.
And yeah, we've made some decisions in the last 16 months or so, in particular around switching to the F-100 sooner, that really set the business up well. And I think in the absence of specific details, because look, a lot of this, especially with this technology set, it's information asymmetry, and for good reason. The United States and other nations don't advertise very clearly what their shortcomings are in technology stacks like this. It's like, so it's not like it's readily available. You can infer some of it. Other things you need to be read in and classification. But so what that requires is, given burn rates and timelines, you have to make some educated decisions, educated guesses earlier to get you directionally correct. And one of the ones that we definitely did was to pull the F-100 in sooner. And then it turned out to be very correct in that even if we were not as right as we think we are going to be, the vehicle was going to unlock other capabilities sooner that would have given us another at bat. And so the argument to the customer ends up being, look, we're developing this technology. You don't have to pay us to develop it. We're going to do it because we're doing it for the thing over the horizon. It might happen to be that you might have an interest in it. Turned out that there is an interest in it. And now I'm able to kind of sidestep some of the long lead development pathways that are traditionally how these types of systems are developed. That allows me to capture a different segment of dollars. That allows me to operate with better IP ownership. That allows me to hire a different type of engineer without classified overhead. And so all of those things come together to have these like very unique business alignment pieces that are, you're never going to physically see them, right? It's sort of policy decisions inside the business that have been very, very smartly debated and decided upon. That means that aircraft back there is not only in a position to deliver, but that we put ourselves in a position that we were directionally correct, that we were like not on the bullseye, but it was like within the sight picture that once we knew it, we're like, oh, it's right there. And now it's not a pivot. It's just 10 degrees and sprint. And that is, my goodness. And you have to have some nerves of steel to make these calls. I mean, we made the call on the F-100. It was like, shit, if we're directionally wrong, oh boy.
Yeah. But it's really hard to go wrong when you have Mo thrust.
33,000 lbs.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the overall pressure ratio on the engine, right? I mean,
Thrust.
You go from J85, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 psi on the back end of the turbine, and you go to like 50-ish.
Yeah, brother.
So that's a massive amount of extra thrust per unit airflow.
That's
Yeah, what he said.
Thrust flux.
Thrust flux.
Good old thrust flux.
Yeah, it's just pressure recovery.
Yeah.
So I've through like reading some of what Patrick Collison from Stripe, I really kind of look up to him as a executive and thinker. One of his book recommendations was this designer, architect, and like city planner, Christopher Alexander. And in this book, and it's pretty sweet how it was written, he was like, in the first page, it says basically like, read all the stuff I've bolded. You can read all that in an hour. You're better off doing that than reading every page and stopping halfway through. I was like, oh, fuck, that's sick. So anyway, I'm like reading all the like bolded headlines of this. But basically it was like, how do you go about doing design? From an architecture and from a city planning perspective. And it's like, he had this idea of just like pattern languages. It's basically a way of saying it's like, what creates the most life? He was like, I don't really have a name for it. It's kind of this nameless thing, but it's like when you have these patterns where people are operating in a system and within this environment, and like the more that you can construct these like double yes and wins, then that's when you know it's the right thing. Because the more, and it's like very precise, because it's like, if it's not right, then you lose that whole like line of someone interacting with it. But I see that some sort of parallel that I don't have a good language for, but it's that same sort of thing. It's like, there's so many ands here. It's like the engine has better thrust performance. Like we have the partnership with RTX, and through that Pratt & Whitney, we have like a better customer segment, which means like more revenue sooner, which is like more stable and less like development revenue, because we are self-funding this. And now it's like these and then it's like, oh, you know that is the right thing.
Yeah, I mean that was the thesis, right? Is as we were talking ourselves into it, those stacked ands.
Yep.
And you're, as you start thinking about it, you're like, I only need 3 of these ands to hit, and there's 8 on the table. If they all hit, like great, but I only really need 3 of them. I have very high conviction on 2 of them, and I'm willing to roll the dice on 6. That was some awesome public math, Marines, right there. Just so you know, put that on the record. But I agree that approach has been instrumental for us.
Yeah, and I think like making that decision, like there was definitely some dice rolling involved. So
100%.
you know, like staying with the J85, like we had the test facilities that we needed. We knew that engine inside and out. We knew exactly what we could do. Like by saying like, okay, next year we're going to build an F100 class vehicle. Like we've never even run an F100
Had
engine.
to stand up an engine test cell.
Exactly.
In another state.
Yeah. So like,
2 other states technically, if you count the work that we did at Edwards and in Jacksonville.
There you go.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So you know, not only last year did we make that kind of decision pretty early in the year, but we did a lot of work to give ourselves the infrastructure to kind of go back to what you're talking about, you know, building the company from the beginning, to give us a chance at success at this vehicle on the timeline we wanted. And one of those big things that we decided to invest in was a new test facility down in Jacksonville, which Glenn, you should share a little bit about.
Yeah, no. So if you haven't been following along at home, it's called the HEAT facility, the High Enthalpy Air Breathing Test Facility. We all love an acronym. I know you love
I hate
it.
them.
So
But this one's
much.
sick, so I'll allow it.
This one's right there. It actually
A heat facility.
Yeah.
It's just what it does.
Yeah. So long term speaking, you know, is going to provide, you know, high flow rates, high temperature flows that simulate the type of, you know, high Mach, high personic type environments that we're going to need to develop engines in the future. Near term speaking, we need a place that we can actually test our F100s.
That is in our control, in our hands.
Yeah. So one of the first things we did, we kind of scouted a number of places. We looked at clean sheet builds, reached out to Stennis Space Center. We reached out to a number of folks, looked at the Cape as well. But then we took a trip back to some old stomping grounds for Skyler and AJ.
In a previous life.
In a previous life. Went down to Cecil Spaceport in Jacksonville and said, hey, you guys got some room for us to do some testing out here? And they're like, hey, you know, we actually have some old defunct jet engine test cells and a hush house over there. Would you like to see it? And I'm like, yes. And I walk in there and I just knew it at first sight of that this is the future.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, it was love at first sight. I'm a propulsion guy. But I knew this could be a huge thing, right? So what we're looking at, so early on, we've already completed what we call phase 1 of that rehab project. And a lot of that has to do with pulling lead off the wall, you know, trying to remediate and making it a safe place to work, but also modernizing the avionics there, right? There was just basically the last tenant had ripped out all the anything valuable there.
Yeah, the place was being run by spiders.
Yeah,
Like, actually.
1,000%. And also installing, we actually worked out a sweetheart deal with some of the folks at Edwards Air Force Base of using some of the old defunct, I'd say surplused, not old and defunct, but surplused test cell equipment. And we had that shipped over to Cecil, installed it, refurbed everything. And now we're, I think, the only private company that is testing F-100 class engines.
That's sick.
Which is pretty freaking awesome. And, just putting that out there, maybe if, we could drum up some business testing F-100 engines. I don't know. But long-term speaking, we're going to use that hush house that we have there, too, to, put an air plant in there, also using some of our F-100 engines and be able to test, at elevated temperatures and pressures and do the things that we need to do to execute on our high-speed vehicle.
Start simulating those high Mach conditions on the ground in a extremely inexpensive way. I think that's the kind of key. Is like you try and do high Mach testing right now, and you're talking about the price that we could build a vehicle.
Yeah, even if you're talking about Mach 3, like I can go up to AEDC, I can go into their cell and test at around Mach 3, or we could invest close to the same amount of dollars and then have a test campaign that is a fraction of that cost
and bespoke to our specific requirements. And we're not competing for like time in the facility with national programs that will probably take priority over us.
And that's something that we don't have as a country that we need so much more is capacity. We do not have enough capacity in the country to service all of the new programs that are coming along. There is so much infighting as well as getting, to get test time. And we're just, and we saw it too of like, hey, look, you can come and test here, but it's going to take you 2 years because that's the earliest opening we have.
How many new test facilities has China built in the last 5 years?
It's I can't tell you on this line because I've been read in, but it's
forgot actually.
It's eye-watering. And so this is something the country needs. We're actively going out and trying to really build that capability up in a phased approach that makes a lot of dollar sense for the company as well as a lot of dollar sense for the country. And any excess time, all the excess time that we have, selling that back to providing that back to the government at a very, very great rate. That's a lot cheaper than what we get at one of our national facilities is just something that would be a great value add to the warfighter.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been great catching up again. Time to get back to work.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Let's do it.
Peace. Later.